And welcome to the Gooner Talk. Arsenal have signed someone. Arsenal have signed Dani Ceballos from Real Madrid on a season-long loan deal. So welcome to the show. Welcome to our chat, our discussion, our raw reaction show, the show in which we look at the players that Arsenal are being linked to, signed with, and react to plenty of the different Arsenal news that there is out there. So yes, let's basically break this down and talk about what Dani Ceballos is and who he is and what he will expect to see at Arsenal this season. He signed on a season-long loan deal, which for a lot of people thinks, oh, season-long loan, we're only having for a year, that's it, not really keen on it, not really any point. I've seen people actually tweeting saying, what's the point in signing someone if he's not ours? Well, we'll talk a little bit about that. But if you are enjoying the shows, please give it a like, please subscribe. If you're loving the fact we've signed Dani Ceballos, then drop the video a big like to show your appreciation that we've signed a player after the signing of Gabriel Martinelli. We're on a roll now. Hopefully we can get a couple more signings in as well. But Dani Ceballos on loan for a season. Positivity. The positive sides of this deal is that we've lost the likes of Aaron Ramsey to Juventus. We lost him. And that was a huge deal for Arsenal. A huge issue with losing Aaron Ramsey is you lose the energy, you use the technicality in the midfield, and you lose Arsenal's actual ability to create chances in that midfield because we're so passive with the players that we have in midfield. Only really Mesut Ozil, when you think of the central side of the midfield, is the creative spark. Guendouzi's more passive. El Neni's not going to give you that. Xhaka's not really going to give you that either. Torreira's more defensive. We don't really have those options. Iwobi could be dragged in to a more central position to play at a 10, but we really needed someone whose passing accuracy and vision took us to a different level after Ramsey left, and we found that in bringing in Dani Ceballos. Now, hopefully throughout the season, you're going to see the ability of the Spaniard to create chances, to find space, to take ball into areas that are dangerous, and he can take players on and get around players. He's very technical. He can take the ball into feet and play quick 1-2s with players, finding more space for himself. He also has really, really good vision in terms of finding the passes in between the lines. If you actually want to know a little bit more of the statistics and how he actually stacks up to Aaron Ramsey, you can go check out the tactical breakdown in which I compare both Aaron Ramsey and Dani Ceballos. In the description, if you're watching on playback, that will be there for you to watch. But what's your thoughts on it? I'm interested if you're joining us live in the chat. Thank you for watching and thank you for tuning in. Tell me your thoughts about the signing of Dani Ceballos and what you think he'll bring to us. Jezaguna says, if he proves to be a good, then he could help us back into the Champions League and we could afford to buy him. So it could work out nicely. I think that's the perfect thing to take away from this, is that we know that Arsenal's finances this year aren't amazing. They're not terrible, but they're not amazing. They're not at the level where we're going to have enough money to be able to sign someone to replace Aaron Ramsey in the long term this summer. And so therefore, bringing in someone on loan means that you can get someone of really good quality. It means that you can bring someone in to fill that hole. It's not papering over the cracks by any instance. It's certainly someone that's going to come in and fill the hole left by Aaron Ramsey. And then you move on to next summer, hopefully with Dani Ceballos being the guy that helps us achieve Champions League football. You've got that extra boost of finances, and Dani Ceballos is going to be someone that can help us do that to next season when we might have more funds to either go out and say to Real Madrid, hey, he had a really successful loan deal. You're not going to use him. Zinedine Zidane is not going to use him as much as what we would. He wants to play regular football. We can get more out of him, and maybe then we can go in with a bid that is enough to tempt Real Madrid to actually sell the kid. I think there's so many more positives than you think of negatives, but let's talk about some of the negatives. As I said, it isn't already just a loan deal. There is no real ownership from Arsenal of this player. He will leave them at the end of the season, barring any sort of not option to buy, because there isn't one. There's not even an obligation to buy. It's just a solid loan deal. And so therefore, if you're going to put it in that structure, in that physical basically structure of having that deal, it means that you're not going to have the player at the end of the season, which is it's a bit meh, but it is what it is, and you can't say anything more than that. He replaces Ramsey for that season, and that's great. But people aren't going to be happy, because it means that it's another position in which Arsenal are light in going into next season. It means it's another position which Arsenal still have to spend and put resources into to try and find someone to replace Aaron Ramsey in the long term, and ultimately that is a bit of a tricky situation for Arsenal to deal with. But the problem, sorry, not the problem, but the great side of this deal is that we've beaten Tottenham Hotspur to this signing, and you can't really discount that. When the whole William Saliba deal came about, and we're hopefully going to see the announcement of that signing being made soon as well, is that he was obviously looked to have a hijack from Tottenham Hotspur, and Tottenham Hotspur were really, really interested in Dani Ceballos before he decided to move to Arsenal. So the fact that they've spent resources and time and trying to scout and go for these two players, and Arsenal have come in and got both of them, it seems, is a huge count on our part. I remember tweeting out a few weeks back saying that if Arsenal have really got the bottle and the ambition, then they will go out and they will sign these two players, and they've now done that. The issue, what's ironic though, is that they're announcing this signing on the same day as the Q&A session with a lot of the fan supporters clubs and the different groups that are going to be at the club tonight, asking the club's board questions. And now you can expect to see that this Dani Ceballos buy basically will feature, I feel, in quite a few of those answers. So when we're questioned on it, or when they're rather questioned on it, they will probably bring this deal up as something that they can use to fall back on. Now, I don't think that puts Arsenal in a very strong position as a board. You can't really fall back on a loan signing, yes, of a very good player, and I'm absolutely ecstatic that he's joined us, but you can't really fall back on a loan signing like that to prove that you're really in it to try and change the ways of the club. It's not really something that they can use. So I'm hoping that this won't come up too much in the Q&A session with the fans tonight, and it won't be used, and they'll talk honestly and in depth about what they want from the club or from the fans, and from what they're going to show in terms of the answer to the statement that was put out by the hashtag #WeCareDoYou. And hopefully that will be settled and sorted, and it'll all be amicable, and we can come away from that meeting with a lot more positivity than we did from Josh Kroenke's statement. But let's revert back again to talking about Dani Ceballos in a bit more detail. As I said, you can go check out the tactical breakdown on him to get a statistical view of it. But let's get some of your thoughts on the chat and what you guys are saying. So Aaron Barnes says Willock is a long-term replacement for Ramsey, hopefully. So after Dani Ceballos leaves, possibly we see Willock come in and replace Ramsey in the long term. It allows Willock to have that push into the first team. Basically, as a young player, if you see your club Arsenal signing someone like Dani Ceballos, you suddenly think that, oh, well, that's another player in my way of developing, I might as well move on. But another positive of this deal is that for players like Willock, it means that you're able to basically bed this guy in and use him, and also you get a lot of quality from Ceballos. But it means that Willock isn't put off by staying at the club. He can still see a route into the Arsenal first team moving into next season, which is really, really positive for someone like Willock. It could mean that psychologically speaking, he moves forward and really excels because he's not put off by the signing of Dani Ceballos whatsoever. So I think that's another positive take, and a really good point that's been brought up in the chat there. Craigie85X says Willock, Torreira and Ceballos Guendouzi would be my preferred starters this season. I think in terms of where he plays and what he does for the formation of the team, I'm still very much leaning towards a Torreira in behind a two number 8s, Ceballos being one of them, who he's been given the number 8 shirt, it seems, and then either Granit Xhaka or Guendouzi in that midfield. There's something about a midfield three of Torreira, Guendouzi and Ceballos. It might be all the fact that they're still very young players, still very early 20s. Guendouzi's not even 20 yet. And so just having three young midfielders, yes, there's negatives that in terms of experience and possibly mentality, but you've got three very hungry young guys who want to develop and improve in Torreira, Guendouzi and Ceballos, and I think that's a really nicely balanced centre midfield partnership with Torreira in behind that could see a lot of traction into next season. Aaron Barnes says, can Ozil and Ceballos play together? Well, in that tactical breakdown video in which we were joined by John Driscoll of Sky Sports, and he gave his views on Dani Ceballos, he said that they can play together. It would just mean pushing Ceballos back into a more of a deeper role when you see us play over more of a 4-2-3-1, because if you're going to play Ozil, he has to play in the number 10 slot, and if you're going to play over number 10, it means you're going to play with two pivot midfielders behind them, be that Xhaka and Torreira, or in the past it's been Coquelin and Santi Cazorla, but in this case I can see it probably being Granit Xhaka and Ceballos, or Torreira and Ceballos. I lean towards the Xhaka side of things because the left-footed side of things with Dani Ceballos is right-footed, so you've got that balance there. Torreira I still could easily play next to Dani Ceballos. You just lose a little bit of that physicality and depth. But when you're playing against one of the lesser teams in the league and you want to be more offensive and more creative, playing Ozil and Ceballos together could be a real tactical weapon that we could use to get the points in the games where sometimes we struggle, like last season against Crystal Palace, like last season against Leicester and Wolves. I know they're not necessarily lesser teams, but they're teams that we still should be beating with the quality in our side, and we really lacked chances that were being created. Lacazette and Aubameyang were cut off from the midfield. So hopefully by just this one technical signing, we can improve that link between the midfield and the attack, and the chances that Dani Ceballos will create will be priceless for this team moving forwards. La Polga Atomica says, I'm hoping Tierney comes in. Yep, I'm hoping so too. Lena Sharp says, Tom, you think we'll somehow find the 80 million to buy Zaha? I'm really not sure about the Zaha thing at the moment. It's going up and down like anything. It's 50-50 according to Sky Sports, so we'll have to wait and see. Ant says Arsenal fans are unhappy because he didn't cost anything. Mustafi and Xhaka cost us 70 million plus. Now you want them out the door. It's a very good point. I don't think you should look at this as Arsenal being penny pinchers. They've got a fantastic player in for what is supposedly a €4 million loan fee for a season to replace someone who was arguably worth 50 million, and we could have spent 50 million to replace Aaron Ramsey, and we've got around that this year so we can focus our finances on other positions that are more important, that will need permanent signings that are going to cost a lot of money. Praveen TG says, there any truth in the Regani link? Now, this is the part, if you were joining us from the tweet I put out on Twitter, that I was going to do a tactical breakdown. Don't worry, tactical breakdown is returning today. You're going to have 2 shows today, and the tactical breakdown is going to be on Daniele Regani of Juventus. I'm hopefully also going to be getting some expert insight as well, so you're going to hear from a couple of experts on Regani and breaking the Italian kid down moving forwards. Avon says, Brazilian kid, 6 million. Gabriel Martinelli he's talking about. Spanish youngster on loan without the option to buy. Centre-back being loaned back to the club next season. Sorry to be negative, but nothing else has actually happened this transfer window. Yes, there's a way of looking at it like that. You can say that we've only brought in a youngster, we're sending someone back on loan, and we're also bringing in someone on loan. But I think there's more deals to come than just those. I think the Tierney deal is getting closer by the day, even though it seemingly has hit a couple of snags. But we are seeing more positive news come out today as well, that he is going to be progressing and hopefully becoming an Arsenal player fairly soon. Then you've got the winger side of things, and so therefore if you're talking about Arsenal's winger situation, we know that we're into this. We know that we've got someone. We know that we're talking to wingers. We know we're looking for them. And so therefore that will eventually happen. So I wouldn't get too hung up on signings right now. I think they will happen. I wouldn't worry about it. Kaz says, now bring in Everton and Zaha. Zaha on the left whilst Everton operates on the right. I think you're very optimistic if you think we're going to sign 2 wingers, especially 2 that would cost upwards of 100 million in combination. Mark Joseph says, hi Tom, first time watching live, even though I've watched loads of your raw reactions and tactical breakdown vids. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much, mate. Let's hear some more of your comments. Wang says, I'm disappointed that we did not announce Ceballos and Saliba together. Who knows? Maybe we'll see Saliba announced a little bit later today or even tomorrow. Who knows? But I think you can expect that announcement fairly soon. And on that, I'm going to get Jeremy Smith on the show, and we're going to do a bit of a Q&A on William Saliba, so you can get all the information you need on the Frenchman as well. Brandon Jason Grosso says, Tom, the greatest thing about this signing is we don't have to play Ozil anymore. It's an opinion that plenty of people have, I know. And says, Pogba going to Madrid could help us get Ceballos on a permanent basis. Possibly if they do go out next season and go for Pogba, maybe it means that Ceballos will realise that he's basically going to be superseded by Pogba. There's also been rumours that Ceballos doesn't really get on with Zidane that well. I don't know if that's just paper talk, but I have seen little articles here and there about that. Arsenal for Life says it's happened again. Apurum says, which formation does he slot into perfectly? We've had a bit of a talk about that. I think it's a 4-3-3 with 2 number 8s with a CDM or a deep line midfielder behind them. I think he fits into one of those onto the right-hand side of the midfield pivot. Sharab Palace says, hopefully there is an option to buy on the deal, although if he has a really good season, I could see Real Madrid definitely wanting him back. The thing about doing deals with Real Madrid is that they're very savvy in the ones that they do. When they sell players, they usually put buyback options in it because they know they're not silly, and they know that they've bought players back like Carvajal, for instance, who went off to buy Leverkusen and then he came back. Morata obviously went to Juventus, and then they bought him back and then sold him on immediately to Chelsea to make a profit. They're not silly, Real Madrid. They don't do silly deals. They get players in and they do it for the right amount of money. And so therefore getting in someone like Dani Ceballos on loan is great, but next season, if he has a fantastic year, Real Madrid will be keen to hold on to him and know that they've got a player of excellent quality. If you want to learn more about Dani Ceballos, I suggest you go check out a lot of the videos that when he was playing during the under-21 European Championships, in which he helped Spain win that title, and he was fantastic in that tournament. So definitely you should go check out some of the highlights from that. No more champagnes. I think Arsenal should stop trying to sign Zaha and spend the money on Everton and Regani instead. Alpha says, wow, great deal. Alex Iwobi, thank you for joining, Alex Iwobi. Says the next Denis Suarez. Now that's something that a few people have tweeted me saying it's just Denis Suarez all over again. Now if you've watched enough of Dani Ceballos, and you especially, as I said, watched him in the under-21 European Championships and watched him for Real Madrid and for Real Betis prior, you'll know that we're getting a hell of a signing. This guy is 6, 7 times better. Maybe that's a bit of an overstatement. He's several times better than Denis Suarez, easily. His ceiling is miles higher. He's going to play a lot more minutes this season. He's very fond of Unai Emery, and Emery is very fond of him. And I think that we've got someone in that is going to do a great job in the coming season. And I can't wait to see it. I'm going to end things there. I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you have, please give it a like. As I said, this is the first of 2 uploads today. You're going to get a tactical breakdown of Daniele Rugani a little bit later this evening. And hopefully tomorrow or the next day when William Saliba is announced, then we'll see a Q&A with Jeremy Smith, the French football expert, giving you all the inside information, all the details about the Frenchman as well. So stay tuned for those shows. If you've enjoyed the series, please give it a like. Leave a comment if you're watching on playback. Go check out the link in the description for the video of his tactical breakdown in which I compare him to Aaron Ramsey. The results will surprise you, I promise. I'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.